Hello, season's greetings. It is December 19th when I'm recording this, so we are right in the thick of holiday mayhem, holiday chaos, holiday joy for some people. But for a lot of people, this time of year is very tricky and can be very tricky for so many different reasons, whether that's complicated family dynamics or general loneliness that's enhanced by the pressure to be super joyful, or depression that's enhanced by the pressure to be super joyful, or parenting struggles, or struggling to balance all the different commitments that this season has while showing up for, your relationships or your kids or yourself. Um, so there's so many reasons why this time of year is really tricky, and I just want to validate that. In this video, I want to talk specifically about, you could probably hear my dog loudly sighing because she is also tired and fatigued by this time of year, but I want to talk specifically about how diet culture can be really tricky this time of year. It's a really specific struggle. I think diet culture is pretty pervasive and it's hard all the times of the year, honestly, but during the holiday season, it shows up in this very unique way where there's a lot of, I would say, pressure to indulge and, like love food and enjoy sweets together and bake cookies together and have, all the fun food, while also this mounting pressure that we all are kind of under in terms of the January resolution season and getting it together and then being good with food. And so there's really two competing and confusing vibes in this season, in my opinion. And it's tricky. It's tricky to navigate if you are struggling to recover or move forward from disordered eating or an eating disorder. And I sort of think it's tricky to navigate if you have any type of relationship with food in this society. So I wanted to give, I guess, 4 tips for handling this season and handling the weirdness of diet culture in this season, especially because we have to interact with a lot of people, specifically family a lot of times, but friends and coworkers as well. So, number one is prepare yourself for the comments. I think sometimes when I can speak for myself with this personally, I'm in a circle of people in my home right now, and then in my small friendship circle and professional community, that really I'm not hearing comments about Weight Watchers or things like that a lot. So sometimes when I step out of that circle, I'm like, I'm thrown off when I remember that this is kind of an all-encompassing conversation for the rest of society. So it helps me personally, and I think it helps a lot of people to prepare in advance for the out-of-pocket diet and weight-focused comments that you're going to be surrounded by when you're in a social setting. Just mentally, um, remind yourself that this will happen. And then the second part to that is try to prepare your ideal way of responding to the comments. And that might be actual responses like, oh, you know what? I don't want to talk about dieting right now. It's really not good for me. Or there are so many more interesting things to talk about than that. Or or maybe it's something that you have on hand to kind of move the conversation. If you don't want to directly challenge the person or the statement, just say like, oh my gosh, actually, before we get into that, or instead of that, can we talk about the Eagles? Or not that I know anything about the Eagles, but can we talk about a sport thing, or this thing that's happening in the world or in the entertainment industry, just something else that you can really have on hand to kind of divert the conversation. Or, maybe your preferred response is to say nothing and just kind of turn inward and then self-soothe in whatever ways feel best afterwards. That's also okay. I never want people to feel like you have to continually be standing up and speaking out when it's sometimes exhausting and fatiguing to be that person, and lonely because it's oftentimes you're the only person doing it. So whatever your preferred response is, just rehearse it and remind yourself of it before going into the social situations. Third is really, I do think it's very important to legalize eating for joy throughout the year, but especially right now, because there is so much socializing around food and joyful eating with like cookie exchanges and things like that, and eating when we're not necessarily even going to be hungry. Um, and despite what society and all the cultural messaging is around that, it is normal and okay and totally fine to eat for joy sometimes, and to eat when you're not hungry, and to eat for things other than physical hunger. So just reminding yourself of that, repeating it to yourself, even if you don't believe it in this moment, just kind of going through it with yourself, writing it down, taking yourself through that thought. Um, you're kind of doing some neural pruning when you do that. So that thought probably isn't something that you have every day. It's probably not a natural thought for you. So you might not believe it. It might feel weird, but you're sort of pruning your neural pathways to be open to that thought when you just even sit and repeat it to yourself on your own. And then create a few mantras and reminders for yourself before going to these events. Again, write them down. Sometimes they might feel a little cringy, a little like, I don't actually believe this. I don't feel like this is super, um, I don't know, genuine when I'm saying it, but write it down. Just write down what you would like to believe one day. So maybe that's, I'm allowed to enjoy food, or they might be restricting sugar right now, and that isn't good for me. Or eating the cookies is a lot better for my mental health than restricting them or eating the substitute sugar or paleo Running Man cookie mix thing. Like just kind of whatever it is, whatever you want to sort of internalize, write it down, the mantras and reminders, and then just read them to yourself before the event. Again, a lot of it sounds very basic, very like coping skill-esque, but it's the type of thing that you're just kind of putting small little buffers in place for yourself so you're not totally thrown off, so your executive functioning isn't totally shut down during the event, and you're setting yourself up for maybe a more peaceful experience. So I'm thinking of everyone who's struggling with diet culture, or honestly anything, like I said at the beginning, this time of year, and sending so much love and camaraderie out. We will make it through this.